The figure of the tyrant monster is known to the mythologies, folk traditions, legends, and even nightmares of the world, and his characteristics are everywhere essentially the same. He is the hoarder of general benefit. He is the monster avid for the greedy rights of my and mine. The havoc wrought by him is described in mythology and fairy tale as being universal throughout his domain. This may be no more than his household, his own tortured psyche, or the lives that he blights with the touch of his friendship and assistance, or it may amount to the extent of his civilization. The inflated ego of the tyrant is a curse to himself and the world, no matter how his affairs may seem to prosper. Self-terrorized, fear-haunted, alert at every hand to meet and battle back the anticipated aggressions of his environment, which are primarily the reflections of the uncontrollable impulses to acquisition within himself. The giant of self-achieved independence is the world's messenger of disaster, even though, in his mind, he may entertain himself with humane intentions. Wherever he sets his hand, there is a cry, if not from the housetops, then, more miserably, from within his very heart. A cry for the redeeming hero, the carrier of the shining blade, whose blow, whose touch, whose existence will liberate the land. Here one can neither stand, nor lie, nor sit. There is not even silence in the mountains, but dry, sterile thunder without rain. There is not even solitude in the mountains, but red, sullen faces sneer and snarl from the doors of mud-cracked houses. The hero is the man of self-achieved submission, but submission to what? That precisely is the riddle that today we have to ask ourselves, and that it is everywhere the primary virtue and historic deed of the hero to have solved. As Professor Arnold J. Toynbee indicates in his 6-volume study of the laws of the rise and disintegration of civilizations, schism in the soul, schism in the body, will not be resolved by any scheme of return to the good old days, aka archaism, or by programs guaranteed to render an ideal projected future, or futurism, or even by the most realistic, hard-headed work to weld together again the deteriorating elements. Only birth can conquer death. The birth, not of the old thing again, but of something new. Within the soul, within the body social, there must be, if we are to experience long survival, a continuous recurrence of birth, palingenesia, to nullify the unremitting recurrences of death. For it is by means of our own victories, if we are not regenerated, that the work of Nemesis is wrought. Doom breaks from the shell of our very nature. Peace, then, is a snare. War is a snare. Change is a snare. Permanence, a snare. When our day has come for the victory of death, death closes in. There is nothing we can do except be crucified and resurrected, dismembered totally and then reborn. Theseus, the hero slayer of the Minotaur, entered Crete from without as the symbol and arm of the rising civilization of the Greeks. That was the new and living thing, but it is possible also for the principle of regeneration to be sought and found within the very walls of the tyrant's empire itself. Professor Toynbee uses the terms detachment and transfiguration to describe the crisis by which the higher spiritual dimension is attained that makes possible the redemption of the work of creation. The first step, detachment or withdrawal, consists in a radical transfer of emphasis from the external to the internal world, macro to microcosm, a retreat from the desperations of the wasteland to the peace of the everlasting realm that is within. But this realm, as we know from psychoanalysis, is precisely the infantile unconscious. It is the realm that we enter in sleep. We carry it within ourselves forever. All the ogres and secret helpers of our nurseries are there, all the magic of childhood. And more important, all the life potentialities that we never managed to bring to adult realization, those other opportunities of ourself, are there, for such golden seeds do not die. If only a portion of that lost totality could be dredged up into the light of day, we should experience a marvelous expansion of our powers, a vivid renewal of life. We should tower in stature. Moreover, if we could dredge up something forgotten, not only by ourselves, but by our whole generation or our entire civilization, we should become indeed the boon bringer, the cultural hero of the day, a personage of not only local, but world historical moment. In a word, the first work of the hero is to retreat from the world scene of secondary effects to those causal zones of the psyche where the difficulties really reside, and there to clarify the difficulties, eradicate them in his own case, give battle to the nursery demons of his local culture, and break through to the undistorted, direct experience and assimilation of what Carl Gustav Jung has called the archetypal images. This is the process known to Hindu and Buddhist philosophy as viveka, discrimination. The archetypes to be discovered and assimilated are precisely those that have been inspired, throughout the annals of human culture, the basic images of ritual, mythology, and vision. These, eternal ones of the dream, are not to be confused with the personally modified symbolic figures that appear in nightmare and madness to the still tormented individual. Dream is the personalized myth, myth the depersonalized dream. Both myth and dream are symbolic in the same general way of the dynamics of the psyche. But in the dream, the forms are quirked by the peculiar troubles of the dreamer, whereas in myth, the problems and solutions shown are directly valid for all of mankind. The hero, therefore, is the man or woman who is able to battle past his personal and local historical limitations to the generally valid, normal human forms. Such a one's visions, ideas, and inspirations come pristine from the primary springs of human life and thought. Hence they are eloquent, not of the present, disintegrating society and psyche, but of the unquenched source through which society is reborn. The hero has died as a modern man, but as eternal man, perfected, unspecific, universal man, he has been reborn. His second solemn task, indeed, therefore, as Toynbee declares, and as all mythologies of mankind indicate, is to return then to us, transfigured, and teach the lesson he has learned of life renewed.